So, all right, guys, where are you calling in from? I kind of can't figure it out.
We're in Nashville. We're at my house right now in the studio.
You have your own. That doesn't really surprise me. You have your own studio, though.
It saves us a lot of money having our own studio. I mean, it's nice too, just to be able to do things like this without having to go. Like we just be home.
Cozy.
Yeah, that's my favorite word.
I love it. Keep it cozy. That's one of my mantras. My cousin gave it to me, but I loved it. Keep it cozy.
Keep it cozy. I'm going to use that.
Love cozy.
If I could give that to you, if I could tell people that my cousin passed it on to me, and now I'm passing it on to you, Hayley.
Yeah.
Keep it cozy.
Thank you. Oh, God. Thank you. I love it.
Nice.
It's a great gift.
So are you recording music today? Are you like playing around? Am I being too nosy?
No, not at all. Brian and I, we're about to leave for tour. So Paramore's got like 7 shows in the UK and 1 show in Ireland. And we leave tomorrow. So today we just have a couple of like Good Die Young things that we're going to do together. So Brian drove in. Brian lives on a farm like an hour away. It's beautiful. So dreamy. So we pulled him out of his like dreamy paradise to come into the city and work.
Okay, Excellent. How did you guys, I'm going out of order with my questions, but I feel like I'm going to like change it up because I just want to set the stage. How did you guys meet? How did you guys connect?
Well, Hayley was 17. I was just turning 20. I was apprenticing at a salon under the owner at a salon here in Franklin, Tennessee. Mm-hmm. And Hayley came in and she was seeing the owner at the time. She wanted her hair to look like a matchstick. Like when you lit a match. So it was like this deep red into these brighter yellow tips. And at the time, the owner of the salon went on maternity leave. So Hayley came in to get her hair freshened up in the tips. And she was like, well, I'll just go with Brian. I'm used to him. Because when she would go to see Darla, I would be the one who would shampoo her, get the towel, put it around her neck, help mix up her color, whatever it may be. And then Hayley had actually come back from Japan with the guys, and she was like, all right, we've been working on new music. It's for our second album. We're going to be doing all the imagery for it and a music video. And I found this magazine over in Japan called Fruits Magazine. It's a streetwear fashion magazine. And she was like, I basically just want to look like an animated caricature of myself. And that's when we did the big Riot Misery Business look. And sort of from there, it's been sister ever since.
So you got her vision. You were on the same page. You had that before.
Very much so. And I think like creatively, I mean, we were both younger, around the same age. We were really big into the same scene in music and the same sort of thing. So it was this great kind of feeding off of each other that really, I think, made it what it is today.
You got the same references. You spoke the same language.
Yeah. And what we like is, even now she'll recommend something, but I'm able from a professional standpoint to just kind of say, yeah, but you need to keep this in mind. And then she'll reel me in other areas of being like, yeah, but that might be too clean or too pretty, or let's rough it up, because I can get very technical. So it's a good balance.
It's so rare to find a friend like that.
I know. Oh my God. And I feel like I mean, it's like an embarrassment of riches a little bit, because I met my bandmates basically my first year living in Nashville when my mom and I had moved here. So that was one aspect of having this very creative kind of bond with people. But meeting Brian was this whole other thing, because I'm pretty sure had we not met, I think on my own, I was very timid about expressing certain sides or certain interests that I had. And I think that's what's great about any really healthy collaborative relationship. I think you just start to realize there's more in there than you knew, and somebody else can either mirror you, or they can just kind of be that one to start pulling the thread until more you realize how much is going on. And we work with that. there's a lot in here that we want to express, but I think having this partnership to kind of channel it through has just been so healthy for us.
And make you feel safe enough to express this part of yourself. That part of yourself.
The safest.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the safeness and the trust that is there for each other.
Mm-hmm.
It only makes it better.
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't question when one of us is saying something work related or not. There's never a doubt that I don't feel like I don't have her full attention when we're talking, and vice versa.
Yeah,
with that, and so that helps a lot. Like just being seen or heard, especially just in any creative outlet. It's always good to know that you're seen or heard first, and then comes the creativity.
Yeah,
God, I think that you make a great point. It's like the attention. Like I feel like that's like the hardest thing to get. Now, even more than like the creative part, what you're saying, like she could be saying the most insane creative idea, but it's like, just do you have her attention, or do you have someone's attention?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really, really smart. Okay, now I'm going to get to talking about attention, but now I'm going to get to the actual thing, the creative, the meat of what we're talking about. So Hayley, you've got a hat on. What does the hat say? I can't read the font from here because it's like backwards.
It's absolutely the death metal font. It says Metalheads.
Okay.
It's part of a collection that we did with our semi-perms that we talked about it for years before it happened.
Mm-hmm.
We were trying to figure out, because we knew that there was a type of tattoo ink that someone had told me about at some point in my tattoo adventures, where they were like, there's like this metallic tattoo ink that actually sticks in the skin, and it doesn't kill you apparently, and it looks very, like there was someone that they showed me that it was water, and they made it look reflective in a way on someone's skin, and we talked about how cool it would be if you could make someone's hair look like that. And it also was just a really fun, I think, for us to play with marketing in a new way and really go deep into, how are we going to promote this, and what does it sound like? What do the people look like that wear this? And so we made a commercial for the Metalheads collection, which was all inspired by like metallic and jewel tones, combined. Yeah, this is my favorite black beanie that I wear all the time.
I like it.
Thank you.
I don't even know what it said, but I liked it. Okay, so underneath, what color is your hair right now? I see a little bit of red.
It's kind of, I've let it fade quite a bit. We've been off for a few weeks now, and Brian and I, something that I enjoy about, he's a professional, and his job is to make sure everyone looks 100% all the time. But I love that he has that same thing that I do, where I really like for things to kind of look a little bit fucked up or just lived in and comfortable. Like you can have the nicest designer clothes in the world, but if you look rigid and sterile in it, it's not really like speaking. It's not saying anything. It certainly doesn't seem to have a story if it just looks so perfect, So I like that Brian is, very pro, but he's also down to let me just live in my hair color until it fades into oblivion. And we're also just still dreaming up how we want the rest of the album cycle to look. So right now, it is this blend of a few different colors that make this specific orange from Good Die Young, and black tips on the ends. And so I've had that now for a few months at least.
Yeah.
We're just trying to figure out, we love story and we love an arc, a character arc. So we're just kind of trying to decide which way to go next. Do we want to keep this for a little longer? Do we want to push it into, find our way into some new visual storytelling? Not sure yet.
What was the first color you ever dyed your hair? Even without, maybe, I'd imagine before Brian, right?
Yeah. Whew, those were dark days. Well, back then, it's so hard to remember this, but there was a time where really you could not find fashion colors. You could find maybe soft versions of fashion colors. Like Manic Panic has been the GOAT in this business for so long and in this space. And thank God for them, because that was kind of, if I went into a Hot Topic and they happened to have a red, I would just get that and throw it on top of my hair because I knew nothing. But mostly what I was doing was going to a pharmacy close to my house as a kid, someplace I could ride my bike to. And I was taking dollar bills, just however I was scrounging together money, And that's like what I wanted to spend my money on was
Sure.
I just want my hair to say something. I wore like Goodwill clothes. I basically still do, but much to Brian's sadness. But I cared about the hair for some reason. And yeah, I would pick up different versions of like a copper, or sometimes it might look more berry. And I never knew what I was going to get. And that's why when I finally had an idea of like a specific look, I happened to walk past the salon he was working at one day with my granny. And that was like the beginning. I mean, that was really not only the beginning of Brian and I's friendship, but I think it was the beginning of me realizing that it's actually a very cool thing to have a vision about how you want to present yourself to the world. And then it's okay to go after that. It might take a little effort. In my case, it was like I was going from spending pennies to like, all right, I'm going to spend a little money on my hair. And it made such a difference in my life and in how I viewed myself, and obviously the biggest bonus, like the part that's now invaluable, is that we formed a bond out of that.
And now you're bringing the, just on a more kind of like commercial level, you're bringing that experience to a much wider audience with Good Die Young, or it's not a new brand you created already, but that's kind of what you're doing now, right?
Yes.
And then of course we're going to talk about your salon in a minute, but Good Die Young is going even bigger now with Ulta in May.
Can you fucking believe it?
That's it's crazy.
How many colors do you have?
Crazy. Oh my God.
27, I think. Yeah. 27 SKUs.
Of color.
Of color.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean to put you on the spot, but do you know the bestseller?
Right now, it's our Lightning Kit is our bestseller.
Mm-hmm. And it is so good.
Yeah.
What is the Lightning Kit like? I don't dye my hair like a fun color. I'm very unfun.
So the Lightning Kit is an at-home like pre-measured bleach packet and then developer 25 volume. So we did that. So if you wanted to lighten, most of the vivid colors that are Good Die Young need to be put on pre-lightened or bleached hair.
Yes.
And so it's like our Lightning Kit is our bleach, our lightener in a box. It's all pre-measured. You open the pouch, you dump in the developer, you mix it up. You can apply it. You can do a test strand. You can put it in foils. You can do all over if you know.
And
we have a YouTube
volume
channel where we like walk through all of it why it's set at 25 volume. You should leave it on for at least 30 minutes up to 50, depending on your level of darkness, of your hair, the undertone that is your hair, which is the color that it's going to pull as it lifts.
Right.
Mainly, it's so technical, but we kind of walk through all of that with Good Die Young. But right now, that is our top seller currently is our Lightning Kit. It's super moisturizing. It has soy protein to help with breakage, coconut oil in it to help with moisture retention. And so right now that is our number one seller, which is really cool and crazy at the same time. And then after that, it
means people are doing it right. They're educated about.
Well, hopefully from my standpoint as a professional, I've tried to be as descriptive or overly descriptive of what to do, how to use it, how to get the best results. Because I'm a firm believer. Like, I was like Hayley growing up. I would go to the store, and that's any money that I had made doing chores or helping a neighbor out, and any cash that I would get, it always went to hair stuff.
Yeah.
Hair color, bleaching. And I remember how, well, first of all, I didn't live in a world where social media and the internet was as prominent as it is today. And so I didn't have those resources to have access of like how-tos or people talking me through. But I just remember thinking as I got older, how cool it would have been to have those resources because I was so inspired by it. I knew at 12 that I wanted to make a career out of doing it. And so really that's it's so cool that we are able to do that now through Good Die Young. Speak to it on a professional level, but also hopefully take away all hesitation that someone would have to do this at home themselves.
What kind of feedback are you getting from your clients? I say clients, your consumers, or
the community.
Because hair color is, Hayley, the way you were talking about, and Brian, like to just the fact that hair it's such an emotional. You're taking like the few dollars you have when you're young. you're not spending it on, I mean, I guess any purchase at that age is, unless you're buying something out of necessity, it is an emotional purchase, whether you're spending it on an album or a movie ticket. But with beauty, it is like, this is how I want the world to see me.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
when you're buying it, when you're spending on hair color, it is very much like a purposeful, it's like changing into a superwoman or Superman costume,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So tell me, like with Good Die Young, it's like that hasn't changed. The world has changed, but that action is still very powerful. So tell me like some stories from your community.
You have like the thing that's cool about Brian actually being a living, breathing, present day, still behind the chair professional is that he gets those stories.
Yeah,
still,
you're doing the stories.
Yes.
Especially now having fruits and having other stylists and more clientele coming in regularly, even into the salon. And we do use Good Die Young, but a lot of some of the clients that we're like interacting with in the salon that chose to come there because of Good Die Young, because they had used Good Die Young, they are part of the Good Die Young community. Just hearing them, I mean, it's very enduring, because my thing, stories or not, in the beginning, it was always meant to be a thing that was a conversation or a conversation starter to get people just opening up to each other. I think it says a lot when someone is choosing to do anything to themselves that is remotely against the grain, that stands out, that is not the norm, if you will. But also, I know for me, there was a much more deeper personal meaning to why I was doing what I was doing. And it wasn't just solely based on the fact that I had an obsession with wanting to do hair, or I felt this like calling towards it or whatever. It was, I had a very traumatic kind of upbringing. My mother was an alcoholic. My father was never in my life. And for me, it just was a way to escape. I could create this version of myself that wasn't the version living at home in chaos. And presenting that to the community, my peers, the people around me, it was almost like I was putting on a costume and saying, like, I'm going to let them believe that whatever they're seeing forward facing is all that is going on at this moment.
Right.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah. But hair can do that. Beauty can do that. Yeah.
That's right.
And so a lot of the stories are a lot like that. And it's so interpersonal of how someone interprets it. So hearing a story, it's great to know that it was the one thing that made someone feel like they weren't alone.
Yeah.
Because growing up, my biggest thing was like, I just assumed everybody's parents were happily married, and no one had ever dealt with substance abuse in their home of any kind. Because I didn't know how, at a young age, I didn't know what that truly meant or what it was. And so the conversation has just been really great of just people feeling safe, feeling like they know you, like, and in those moments, I felt like no one knew me. So if I mean, and that's kind of what is really special about the conversations and the feedback. And of course, you can read even people wanting more specific things of like specific shades, specific products. But to me, the real important story of it is just the not feeling lonely, like you're just drifting out to sea by yourself, you know, because you could be in a room full of redheads, black, brown hair, blonde. But if you see someone else with like, they have pink hair and I have green hair, and I want to ask them something about that. Like, it's such a simple conversation starter, and it may open up a door to a lot more depth than what you thought it would be.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, thank you for being really open. And I think a lot of people immediately will lock in with your story. And I think, when you're going through something like that, like I totally relate to what you're saying when you're like, you think everyone has X situation and like you're the only one who doesn't, you know? And I think a product like, if you guys were just making this up, lip gloss, I don't think your product would have the same impact. There's something really powerful about your product that's like, you want to make a statement. And it just, I don't know. I think it's the tie to, of course, like Hayley, your music is so powerful, but it's like the music and it's like there's something tribal, like you said, Brian, about you see somebody across the room who also is like, I'm going to put myself out there in this way.
Right.
It's this really nice chemistry that I find your brand really interesting. And sorry, I'm not being clear, but I feel like you kind of know what I'm saying.
But you're being very clear.
Yeah.
I have to work on synthesizing my thoughts.
Same, actually.
But I think you know what I mean. I think this certain products and certain kind of beauty products and brands, it's kind of like people kind of identify with them for a reason, and people dye their hair for a reason, and it's kind of to stand out, but it's kind of to say something.
Yes, absolutely. I mean,
and hair's an accessory that you wear every day, and and ultimately it's your crown. It's your version of a crown. It's the closest thing to a crown, you know, some people are ever going to get. And why can't you dress that crown up to be bold and beautiful and, you know, and I think, Hayley, it was a big conversation between Hayley and I, especially like a year or two into the brand actually being a physical product on e-com and Sephora.com, you know, where and I started, you know, we hit the really like punk, very much what we were when we were growing up and that thing. And Hayley was like, but it has to be. And I just sort of one day looked at her and said, but I thought we were making this about the people that we were when we were younger. And if we're excluding any sort of person to sit at our table, what makes us any different than the people that made us feel that way growing up?
Yeah.
And to me, it's always meant to be like, there's always a spot at our table within Good Die Young. Come as you are, who you are, and let the hair be the thing that brings us all together, that opens a much door of a conversation behind why you're choosing to present yourself this way, whether good or bad, you know, like, and that's okay. But despite any indifferences, it's still, we can still share in the common feeling of how we felt when we chose to dye our hair and what made us choose to dye our hair. That feeling is no different than anybody else's. The storyline may be the same, but the feeling is very much the same.
Oh, the storyline might be different.
The storyline might be different, but you know, the feeling is very much the same.
Yes.
Maybe we don't have to work on synthesizing our thoughts. I knew what you meant. Okay, so tell us a little bit about the Fruits Hair Lab. It's in Nashville. I was really surprised I didn't know, Brian, that you were actually there sometimes in the salon. I thought that maybe it was like, oh, you guys created it, but you weren't actually there. That's very exciting. People can go and actually meet you.
Yeah, we actually, yesterday, so funny enough, someone came into the salon and I wasn't doing their hair, but another stylist was. And they were getting a haircut with Erin, who is a stylist that works for us. She's also the salon manager. And she's basically my right and left arm in the salon. And I love her so much. But she was doing younger clients' hair, and Erin came over to me and was like, they really want to meet you. They follow you online. They're a really big fan, and they asked if we could get a photo afterwards. And they were so happy to take a photo and just to be there. And it was so heartwarming and it meant so much. But like, it's moments like that, like, because I am in and out a lot right now because Hayley,
you're busy. You can't be like doing like meet and greets with like everyone
Hayley
at the front
and the
desk.
band are touring. But like, it was so sweet that the timing happened to be right. And I got to meet them and we took a photo. And like, even their mom and dad sat through their whole appointment and took the photo and was just like, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. And to me, that's what it's about. Like, I don't know. I just felt like, and probably Hayley and I talked, like, I just felt like an awkward kid growing up and so uncomfortable in my skin and who I was. And like, if I can remotely make one person or having a salon and that take all that sort of like not feeling weird or awkward away, like, I'm like, oh, it's a good place. But I am. If I'm in town, if I'm not on tour, I am in that salon almost daily.
Yeah.
You're very inspirational, Brian. I think you're awesome.
Thank you.
You're awesome.
That's very sweet. Thank you.
Hayley, can you tell me about what is like on your mood board right now? Like hair, it's not personal. Like tell us about like what's on your kind of hair beauty mood board. Just because I think, and I guess, you know, this is a bit of Brian too, because you guys collaborate.
Yeah. Yeah, we do. we
You
definitely
just have awesome references and just always are thinking about what's going, what's new in hair color.
I mean, to this day, I look to what's happening in Japan because I just, it's a culture that I really love. And we've been lucky enough to go there a few times. So whenever we play there, the band, we're not like in Japan, our band isn't as big as we are in other parts of the world. And it's kind of the biggest gift.
Wait, in Japan, you guys are not as big?
We're not as big. And people would tell us, I don't know. I think I joke. I like tease our agent all the time that there was this one festival that he had us cancel for some reason. And I don't know. I still to this day, I'm like, it was probably like a money thing or something. And I'm like, if you got us on that festival, we probably would have. But to like in a very serious way, I'm so thankful that it's the one place we can go in the world. And like, I can literally walk down the streets by myself. I mean, there's fans that might come and say hi, but there's no level of like fanaticism, or I don't worry about safety or any of that stuff. And it's the best place because all I want to do is walk around and I want to see the sights. I want to go shopping. I want to check out like the culture, right? So when I'm not there, which we usually get to go like maybe once an album cycle, we'll go play a few festival shows, or we'll do like a quick little jump to Tokyo and Osaka. When I'm not there, I'm just looking at different salons or street style. That's all the things that are happening in Japan that aren't necessarily like commercialized, but it's real people and their everyday life. So I found a couple of salons that I love to look at. And the interesting thing is they're always years ahead of what ends up happening 2-3 years later in America with fashion and beauty. And right now, what I keep seeing is like this really, it's hard to put my finger on it, but there's something very fresh about how they're doing neutral colors and natural colors and then mixing in, neons that somehow look soft and feel lived in. And I'm kind of obsessed with that right now. Brian and I have been doing a lot of hair jewelry. So we'll like tie extensions into my hair and then he'll kind of fasten necklaces and bracelets and earrings into my hair just to like add something textural and shiny when I'm on stage. So I would say those are the two things that just stay on my radar right now. But I'll also say like I'm kind of in this point, this phase. And I think it's because I'm 34 now. We're ending a cycle with our band. We've been like 20 years at the same label. Wow. And this is the first time in our career that like our contract is ending. And we get to kind of think about, wow, what is it going to be like to sort of just have agency again to choose what the next steps are and kind of restructure. And I'm feeling the same thing mirrored in my like internally. And so I talked to Brian about this a lot because it kind of presents as an identity crisis, which kind of is, I would imagine a lot of Paramore fans would be surprised by that. Maybe not. But I want to be honest about it too, because I think that like, it's so funny that you can be out in public as something that other people might think is fully realized, but you're still a human that's growing and you're going through all the same chaos that everyone else is in this world and your own personal ups and downs. And so I'm kind of in this interesting season of not fully knowing what's the next version of myself? Like, how do I upgrade and how do I keep growing? And what does that look like on the outside? Like I love to sometimes call into being my growth, like by deciding to change my hair or like buying this old vintage t-shirt that I've been saving on eBay and watching on eBay forever. And it like these little moments, and sometimes it's about purchasing something or sometimes it's just about taking action. But I think they represent good change, like the kind of change that you need to spur on to keep becoming. So that's where I'm at. And I find a lot of inspiration still, it's always hair. I mean, typically it's hair. We were just talking about it today. I was like, I don't really know what I need, but I know that I need to do something soon. Like I need to change or I need to try something. So I don't think we'll be like shaving my head or anything, though We
will not be doing
I
that.
do love to fantasize.
What was that vintage t-shirt? Was that a real thing?
It's usually, that's what I collect. And I will spend an embarrassing amount of money on like a 81 Talking Heads t-shirt. It's usually either Talking Heads or like a random, like obscure hardcore band from the 90s.
Bjork,
Bjork.
Yeah, love Bjork.
Yeah, me too. And like Bjork's another one that's just like, you see the presentation of the growth that is internal.
She's always changing. It never feels old, never feels stagnant, never feels like she's listening to anybody else telling her what to do. Mm-hmm. Feels just constant, like a metamorphosis, but it always feels like ageless.
I know. She's really got a superpower, you know, but I think that's to your point of like people being able to like, when they have agency and they feel empowered to do it, which is that's all we want to do is offer those tools. Like you can kind of just become whatever you need to become.
Yes. It does not feel dictated by a trend or a moment or a vibe or any of that stuff. It feels just like she decided to do this, or today she's an owl, or tomorrow she's a mom. Tomorrow, it's just. Yeah.
I love that also. I mean, I think this is probably because I grew up so public from like 16 on.
It's crazy.
I know.
I cannot imagine.
I'm just realizing at 34, like I'm in therapy being like, oh shit, I didn't realize how much that absolutely fucked me up, you know? But I think that hair was also a way that I could save something for myself and kind of show people that maybe you don't actually know everything that's going on with me. It's why I like bleached my hair white. I told Brian, I was like, Brian, in 2016, I was like, I cannot wake up again and see the like flame-headed Paramore singer in the mirror. I need to do something else.
Is it like kind of like, I follow you, but I'm just need a little more clarity. Is it like something like, okay, you know what? Like today, you think you know me? Guess what? Now I have like brown hair. Now I have white hair. Now I've like just kind of like keep them guessing, like you don't own me, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, it kind of is. I mean, I don't do many things better than spite. So I think
it's kind of all I'm referencing is like the American Horror Story Coven. When Emma Roberts' character comes back in and she's like, surprise bitches, bet you thought you'd seen the last of me. It's basically that vibe in real life. It's like she's like, gotcha.
That's so true. Oh my God.
Don't get too comfortable. She may change. Yeah. And I'm over here like, just sweating.
Mixing up some color.
Yeah, like,
is this right?
Hurry faster.
Is this what you wanted?
Insane, but true.
Oh my God. All right. Well, thank you so much for that insight. All right, so I'm going to let you go soon. I'm going to let you get back to the studio, back to packing, relaxing, whatever you need to do. We do our quick FM5, which is just lightning round, light, quick, fun answers, and you guys will both do it. Okay, ready?
Oh, Jesus.
What is your favorite cheap and cheerful beauty product? Like under 10. I was going to say under 5, but it's inflation times.
So I really love the waterproof Maybelline mascara.
Oh, yeah, the pink and green?
The green and pink one.
Yeah.
Absolutely one of my favorite. I keep it in my kit all the time. Swear by it.
It's so good. The clear one was great for summers on Warped Tour also. Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool.
Mine is like Aquaphor, literally, like just probably terrible for the environment and all that shit. But I took Accutane as a teenager. I need this. I get
moisture.
It. I need moisture, baby.
Okay, most indulgent snack.
Ooh, go. You're the snack queen.
The boom pop. The boom chicka
boom
pop.
Chicka pop.
The
popcorn?
kettle corn.
Oh. Mm-hmm. That's like healthy.
I know, but I will annihilate an entire bag, so I don't think it's that healthy.
A single serving for you. Okay.
And I'm not talking like the small ones. I'm talking the Costco size, sit down on the couch, and I'm digging at the bottom of it.
That's so true, actually. Mine is, okay, hold on. God, this is really tough, man. So
peanut butter M&Ms.
Yeah.
Tasty.
Don't let her fool you. Yeah. It's also both of ours. I should have said that to begin with.
You put the M&Ms in the Boom Chicka Pop.
If you put them anywhere near me, I'm going to eat it. And we're going to do that.
He during COVID, like him and Colton, his partner's house, was like part of my bubble. And I would go stay with him all the time. And he would have the peanut butter M&M boxes that were like this big. Those
I don't want to have to leave the house that often.
They were gone. Anyway, you're right. Peanut butter M&Ms.
Okay, comfort food movie. The kind of thing you just can throw on and like, you know it.
You've Got Mail. No, When Harry Met Sally actually is the one.
How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days.
Oh, wow.
That's just what, it's always been just my, like an old favorite that
Little Big,
we shall see.
Okay, underrated musical artist.
Underrated musical artist?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
Who do you love? Who do you think needs some love, some play?
Oh, man.
Or is this too political?
Oh, God. Well, what isn't too political anymore? Mine is will always be Adrienne Linker from this band Big Thief. Her solo records, now, look, she is highly, credited and acclaimed, but she's definitely and probably will always be underrated because I just don't think there's a possible way for people to ever all at one time gather how talented she is. And so, anyway, that's mine.
I'll check her out. I asked because I was like, oh, these folks are going to know.
Mine's going to be OG.
Oh, OG.
And you took them out on Paramore, just took them out. But, I mean, her singing voice, I'm like, why are you not?
OG, like just the letters OG?
O-G-I.
Oh, OGI. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Stunning voice, phenomenal on stage, but just I don't know why they're not bigger. I think they're incredible.
Yeah. Thank you for the musical recommendations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I feel like our audience thanks you. And then finally, in the movie of your life, who would narrate it?
I hope Brian.
In the movie of me? Oh my God. I would like you to. You have such a great speaking voice.
Oh God.
That or Morgan Freeman. I want to feel like I'm like a Discovery Channel. And I want to feel like it's what is it? The Disney that they do, the planet.
Yes.
I just want Morgan Freeman.
David Attenborough does mine and Morgan Freeman does yours. That's pretty beautiful. Oh, also I love Florence Pugh, her voice. Like anytime she does an interview, she was in Midsommar and
she does have like a kind of a rich voice.
Mm-hmm. It's just buttery.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Florence Pugh, I wouldn't mind that. If we can't get Morgan Freeman on Brian's project and we can't get David Attenborough on mine,
I will definitely take.
I would take Florence.
Thanks, guys. You guys are awesome. Congrats on everything.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
It means a lot.
Thanks for having us.
So we are talking all about your brand today, but I wanted to start at the very beginning. When did you first meet? When did you start working together? Hayley, what point were you at your music career?
It was pretty early on. I mean, we had just put out our first record in July of 2005, and we toured for about a year. And after about a year of, box dies on the road and kind of just doing whatever I could by myself, I kind of just got tired of not really knowing what I was doing. And so it was that next fall that I met Brian at the salon he was working at, which I think at that point he was apprenticing. So it was also the very beginning of his professional career as well. We were babies.
Yeah, I was 20 and she was 17.
Mm-hmm.
And it was 2006.
That's right. Yeah.
Seems like forever ago, to be honest.
It was, sadly.
It's not too long ago. So you guys are both based in Tennessee, right? Was this in Tennessee where you first started working together?
Yeah, in Franklin, which is about 35 minutes south of Nashville. I was apprenticing at a salon called Pink Mullet that had just opened, really not too long after Hayley popped in, to be honest. And I was apprenticing for the owner. And so at that time, I was just doing shampoos and mixing up color, kind of assisting the stylists with their clients. And Hayley came in to see the owner. The owner actually went on maternity leave. She was pregnant at the time. And because of just recognizing me, having the experience of me being the apprentice for the owner, she asked for me when she came in next time. And that's really where it all started from there.
And then what was the first music video you worked on?
So I had done Misery Business, that look, but I had not worked on set. But I remember Hayley and the guys had just come back from Tokyo, and her hair at that time, she wanted it to look like a matchstick. So it was very like red into these just kind of a a soft yellow on her ends, just slightly. And she came back from Tokyo and she was like, I found this magazine called Fruits. It's a Japanese streetwear magazine. I was really inspired by it, and I just want to kind of look like a character, an animated character of myself. And so that started like Misery Business, that look, which was kind of what embodied, I feel like, Riot, that whole era and that album. But the first music video that I actually ever worked on with Hayley was Crush Crush Crush.
So walk us through the creative process of coming up with a hair look. Is it totally collaborative? Where do you guys both get your inspiration?
It's 100% collaborative.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I don't feel like any of the looks that we've ever done would have come out the same were we just doing them by ourselves. I mean, we bring out different parts of each other, and I think we kind of help each other see things from different perspectives, which kind of also is just, it's the best kind of creative juice, you know. It's been really good for us because also Brian knows his shit, right? Like, he's a professional, and so he gets that side of it in a way that I, you know, when I'm thinking of, like, when I have an idea, I don't really know always what goes into it. Of course, now I have a little bit better of an idea because we've been working together for so long. But in the beginning, especially, I think like the fact that I could run an idea by someone who actually knows all the technical background to what these thoughts and ideas that I might have really look like when they're applied. And then the fact that he can bring that technique into this, you know, a dreamy sort of setting, and kind of, Brian's a dreamer. So I think what's interesting about Brian is, like, for all the technique and technical skill that he has, I don't think it's ever stopped him from kind of dreaming about what might be possible. And a lot of times, like, being in a band, like, I would always hear like, oh, you don't need music school. Like, people who go to music school, they like, you know, they like limit themselves because they're just like stuck with theory. And I don't think that that's totally true, but I also, that's just what I always grew up hearing. And when I watch someone like Brian work, it's like, it completely debunks that, because I think that you can actually grow off of like the technical skill, the theory, the how and the what of you know, like a creative process. But like, he's never really lost the ability to kind of like dream really big and think like, well, why isn't that possible? And how could we make it possible? So I think that, to me, as far as our collaboration goes, is the biggest gift, because it's just, it kind of makes everything feel possible. And so whether we're coming up with like products or marketing around a product, or whether it's just a look that, you know, we want to do for a music video or for a tour, I think he kind of takes those dreams and really puts them into effect with all of the skill that he's amassed over the years.
Let's talk about the start of the iconic orange Riot era. Where did you guys come up with that color? What was the story of that?
Well, we had been doing like different copper tones, you know, and that kind of came from just as a teenager, I really was drawn to having red hair. It was kind of my go-to. Maybe it was like a little bit of leftovers from 90s culture, like a lot of like Auburn alternative styles. But yeah, when I started going to Brian in the salon, they had all these products that I didn't have access to because I didn't have a license, you know. And at the time, you couldn't just go into a store and get any shade of the rainbow that you wanted. You kind of were limited to what was at, you know, a pharmacy or a drugstore, you know, on shelves. So like, I went from my choices being like this many different reds to Brian being like, oh, here's this new like Paul Mitchell Inkworks product that we're using. And it was the brightest orange that I'd ever seen. And when it faded to like highlighter yellow. And it was, you know, I had seen nothing like it before, except for in like punk rock photos or music videos. And so, yeah, I mean, that to me, it was just him showing me what was possible and me being like, well, I mean, if it's there, we might as well use it, you know?
Brian, did you recommend it? How did the choice come about?
Oh, yeah. I mean, my input came more on what I felt would look best with her skin tone. I knew the range that she wanted to stay in, but more specifically what would complement her the best in that range. So a lot of Hayley's, like, that era was me mixing not just Inkworks, but it was like 2 or 3 other products together to get that specific look to complement like her skin tone, but also to complement the other colors that we ended up doing, which was the bleach that was in the side, some even yellow that was intermixed in those areas, as well as like a very like kind of brighter, more vivid red in spots as well. So it was just all making sure that all of it really complemented each other as well as complementing Hayley.
So you have the Riot shade with Good Die Young. Was that one of your first colors that you released? Tell me about the launch process for the brand.
That was the very first product that we worked on for Good Die Young was Riot. And that was because for so long, I would get so many fans of Hayley's, of the band, coming in, whether to see me or would ask me just when they could in passing at shows, wherever, like what I used on her. And to me, what I feel like is the biggest gift of my art and my craft is I feel like most anyone could do hair to some capacity. Everyone at home, they have hair. But for me, what makes me better at my craft is more my formulation, the way my brain thinks, the way that I would formulate a color is, to me, the biggest gift that I have, I feel like. And so that was very important not to give that away just freely. So I held off on telling anyone what my formula was or what I was intermixing. And so when we started to work on Good Die Young, when she came to me and said, "Hey, I really want to create a hair dye line, but I can't do this without you," I was like, look, this has to be Riot. We kind of knew that we were going to call it that, but it was solely based on that era, that one specific thing, because hundreds of people would ask me what I was using. So it meant so much to start with that, because I feel like without that color, there would have been no Good Die Young to begin with, because that's what started our relationship. It started, in a way, it was great press, but everyone, that's how they opened every interview about the band or Hayley, was the fiery-haired, the flame-haired singer. And so it really meant a lot to start there. And let me tell you, starting Good Die Young was a process. It wasn't just a process finding the right orange, that what I was mixing together, but making it perfectly ours in a Good Die Young shade. It was finding the right labs, the right people, the right partnerships. I mean, we went through several backfires and mistrials before we got to where we are today, Yep. And it took a full year. A full year before we really had an idea of what we wanted the product to really be and look like, and the consistency and the shade and the tone, and and then it was, I feel like, another 6 months to close to a year before we were actually an item that had a packaging. It was filled. It was on on our .com. It was something that people could then purchase. We could promote and we could say, "Hey, that secret formula I wouldn't give up? Well, here it is. You can buy it now."
So as co-founders, what are each of your roles with the brand?
I mean, in the very beginning, there was really no one else at the brand other than like who was helping us with the actual formulations inside of the lab. Brian and I got to visit a few labs, and, it started that way. And I also had my band's manager, kind of helping us with the business, because we just had no idea what we were doing. I mean, neither of us had ever started a business or a company like this, so it was very intimidating. And I think the first real hire that we had was a social media intern that was remote, and that was just for like an interim amount of time. And so Brian and I, for a while, were creative directing, we were managing, we were like it was just all of it, right? About 2 years or maybe a year and a half into it, we hired our first president, and he was with the company for a while. And, we also had some missteps with the type of hires that we did, because again, we didn't really have a whole lot of, I knew music business, but this was a whole different animal, right? So now I think where we're at and where we've come to is like the team's been built out. The company is a lot more just established, and we're kind of getting to places that are seriously exciting, like new, like adventures, right? But I feel like I take on more of like a creative and I, honestly more these days, a little bit more background role since Paramore's back on the road. And it's so nice because I really enjoy, like, I enjoy marketing, and I enjoy like that kind of strategy. So I feel like as long as I'm in on what's going on with those types of things, and I get to, still be involved in the creative and helping find resources for whether it be photography or whatnot, then I feel like I'm using my strengths for the company's sake. And obviously, too, Brian and I are both the face of the company. So we do a lot of that type of work, too, like showing up, doing appearances, trying to make sure that people hear about this. So a lot of forward-facing stuff. I feel like that's where I really come in, and a lot of community-based stuff. Brian is like a mad scientist. And so I feel like in a lot of ways, there's so much background work that he does that people don't get to see. I see it because I'm the closest with him. Ashley sees it. Ashley's our head of sales, and she's been so involved since she came in with almost all aspects of the business. But like, Brian can not only sell you something, but he really, again, he really knows the technical side of this. And I think that's been so invaluable for he and I to, like, for me to be able to use the platform that I have with Paramore and kind of the experience that I've had in the public eye, and people kind of looking at me as like, like I want to do my hair like Hayley from Paramore, or all of those things. Gosh, like that at this point feels like it's an easy sort of ask from me. But for Brian, he does those things, and as well does a lot of background formulation, deciding what the new product should be, like what's on the forefront of innovation, and how can he, help Good Die Young get to that, get to that product. So it's really fun. And honestly, like thinking back to when we were starting out and every bit of this was just on our shoulders, like it's kind of amazing that we did any of it because we had no idea what we were doing.
No, that's very true. I was going to say, yeah, I'm more Chief Innovation Officer. So any product, that is my baby. Anything to do with that sort of creativeness and innovation. And like Hayley said, I am a dreamer. And so I'm constantly trying to dream up of ways to make hair funner, louder, more attainable. And even certain things that are unattainable, trying to find a way to make them attainable.
Yeah, it's very interesting because we don't ever talk about, especially at this point, we don't ever like talk about like what our business titles are. And it's so funny to me because we spend most of our time on the road, and being in a band and being on tour is very like Peter Pan syndrome. Like it's just, you just feel like a bunch of kids that are like piled up in a bus traveling like a circus, But yeah, like, like I'm wondering who I can pawn off the CEO title to, because I still feel like a child in a circus. But for Brian, whenever we finally landed on Brian's title, Chief Innovation Officer, I was like, damn, this sounds like there's no going back. This is very real, very adult, and we are a very real company.
Do you wear suits to the meetings for pitches?
Remember when we talked about doing that? We talked about doing that for a little while. Like every time we're in like videos for the, or like content, we should be wearing suits, but we haven't done it yet. Mostly because I like a cozy comfort day in the office.
I think you guys could pull it off in a fun way. So Speaking about growth of the brand, when this airs, you will have launched at Ulta Beauty. Tell us about that process and what that means for the brand.
It's huge. I think it's huge. It's huge on so many levels. Personally, I think for Hayley and I, it was one of the places in the very beginning that we said we wanted. Target and Ulta were our yes, and Ulta really makes sense from a perspective for me because they have salons in stores. They have such a large hair section. They their staff, their team, who they're educated just so not just on beauty, cosmetics, skincare, but also hair care, hair color. And I think it's really important. It's because Good Die Young is a very DIY product, but for me as a professional who still works behind the chair when I'm not on tour, 3 to 4 days a week, I think, having that professional side to Good Die Young, it just is really cool to have an atmosphere that it can live in, that it still has both of those to its identity. Yes. There's the professional aspect of you can talk to a professional, you can have a salon right there at your disposal, but you can take this product home and you can do it yourself. And we make sure to educate people to the best of our ability as far as in depth as you can go, that will fit in a video, in a piece of paper that's going to fit in a box sort of situation. And so I think it's just, to me, it is so personal and exciting in one way, but for the business in another, it's extremely exciting and just I'm still pinch me because I feel like I'm going to wake up at any moment. The fact that we're doing this podcast with you to talk about it is just I'm giddy because I love what I do and it's always been a passion. And I never thought that this is something that would ever be possible for someone like me.
Yeah. And it's like, if you think of Ulta from the consumer, vantage point, it's such a first stop for people interested in beauty, and it's such a great place to it's like a hub. You kind of have access to all these different products that you can try for the first time, but also from a business owner's perspective, Brian and I look at this as man, so many brands have really taken off because of an opportunity with Ulta. I think that the fact that they're accessible, they're in all these different places that so many different types of people in so many different cities across the country can get to. It's really, really special for us as business owners because it feels man, we did something right, we've gotten to this place where we do have retail partners, but man, this is a really, really big deal, and especially for them to believe in the brand enough to give us, basically to open at all the stores on day one. It's kind of like Brian's saying, it's just unbelievable. You want to just pinch yourself to make sure that it's not gonna, dissipate in a moment's notice. But we're so excited, and it's just, I can't wait for people to be able to get their hands on it who haven't been able to access it before.
And then I'm also wondering, I've seen so many Gen Z people out in the world with colorful hair. I'm wondering if hair dye is becoming more mainstream. Do you feel that this Ulta launch kind of signifies the fact that hair dye is becoming more normal compared to maybe 10, 15 years ago? Was it more a scene thing then? And is it just becoming a regular thing these days? What have you guys seen?
It used to be so frowned upon, I think. And there are definitely situations or circumstances where it still is. And Brian and I really want to battle that stigma with Good Die Young. We want to kind of make a statement with our business, not only give people products, but show that it's a lifestyle for people, and it's a very important choice. It's not flippant. It's not like, this is a commitment, and it's also a matter of personal freedom to express, and I feel like, that's like everything, especially to young people who are like in, it's their formative years. This is when they're experimenting and trying to figure out who they are. And there are also people my age and older that are still searching and trying to figure out how they want to present themselves to the world. So from that point, I think that, there's still areas where we can improve, but to your point, it's much more a fashion accessory than it's ever been. It's much more accepted in wider circles. You can open any fashion magazine now and see Marc Jacobs ads, or even runway shows where there's always at least one model with like a fashion color or a vivid color or a streak or a strand, or, accessories in their hair, which we're also promoting. Like, there's just, I think there's a little bit more room for fun and play. And I think that that's how beauty and fashion, it should be playful. I don't think it all has to be so serious and so sexy all the time. I think that you need room to try all the different hats on and to sort of understand all the corners of who you are as like an outside being, And so we've had a lot of fun watching it grow. But man, I'll tell you this, like, you would never, ever kind of feel the excitement around hair dye that you feel in the real world when you're in like some freaking investment firm's office. Like, there are dudes that still do not understand the value of this. And for a long time, Brian and I have tried to show that not only have we already proven those people wrong, but it's only growing and getting stronger. And that's also very exciting to us to know that we weren't wrong. We were right about this. And it's something that we personally believe in and we know is so important to young people and to all people. Like, it used to be very punk and niche and kind of like badass. And I think it's whatever you want it to be now. It can literally suit whatever personality that you are. I love that about, hairstyle, but mostly hair color. It's just it's another way to be yourself.
And I think also with what Hayley was saying is like it's continuing to grow. And so we've proven, we hope to keep proving that. And yeah. I think we've also, what I would say, with Ulta and Good Dye Young and what we're doing, we've created a toolkit. So we've taken every opportunity to take away any negative uncertainty that is there about doing it at home yourself. And we've created a really cool like color starter kit that comes with a bowl of brush, gloves, the lightning kit, a packet of our Dyeposit, and then the color of your choice. And so I think that it's, having that in Ulta, and it's broken down with such animated, cool instructions on how to do it. And so I think the more also in having the Pro Factor and educating people in there on do's and don'ts and any of the who's, what's, and whys of doing it, we've made sure to the best of our ability to educate someone as much as we can possible to make them feel secure in what they're doing. And I think that also helps a lot of understanding, because so much I think that, there is the stigmatism about sometimes in schools or workplaces. And that is unfortunate, and that's something that we hope to break. But I think there's a much larger stigma of like how damaging it could be, or no, that's not right for me. I'm afraid it won't be suitable for my skin tone. Whatever, a list of things. And so we've also worked really hard just to be educating any consumer or person who is looking at Good Dye Young and has thought, maybe I want to try that. And so hopefully we've done a good job on our end of making it a for sure, oh yeah, I can do that. I can go pick up this toolkit from Ulta that has everything that I need in it, and it's laid out And this should be fun, and it should be an experience that I can remember. And hopefully it's never a negative experience at the end of it.
And what role did the pandemic play in mainstreaming colorful at-home hair dye? I feel like when the lockdown happened, everyone on TikTok all of a sudden had colorful hair or colorful streaks in their hair. Did you guys see that in terms of sales on the brand end as well?
Yeah, definitely. And it was such a wild feeling because obviously it was a pretty scary time and it was kind of a solemn time. And we, I think, just assumed this is going to be not only detrimental just to our everyday life, but it's also probably going to be detrimental to our business. And we just have to wait and see what that looks like. And then it was like overnight something happened. I don't know if like a TikTok went viral or what happened, but people were placing loads of orders to the website. They were really excited because we had just released right around or right before the start of like lockdown, we released our first kind of pastel collection. It was called Lighter Days. And that just seemed to really strike a chord with people. I think everyone was just so looking for something to be happy about, something to feel like they had agency over something. And hair was just a really powerful way to, it was empowering for people. So yeah, we definitely saw a ton of growth. We also saw a lot of social engagement, like that kind of growth as well. Because again, everyone just was looking for connection and looking for a way to feel, like they were part of something. And we have always from day one invited people to come be a part of this community that we're trying to build. So it was truly like a shock and a surprise, and it was a pleasant surprise. And it also gave us so much purpose during the pandemic because we would just get in the room. It was like Good Die Young was part of mine and Brian's bubble, and we would just brainstorm with the team and figure out, okay, now what kind of social campaign can we do? Okay, what do people seem to need this? How do we speak to this need? Or can we make a product like this since it seems like they want that? I think it was probably one of the most important times that we had as a business, thus far in terms of like tough, but like positive growth, and I mean, I was so happy that people were finally willing to just try this. Cause like Brian said, there's such a barrier to entry sometimes with hair dye, but man, nothing like the whole world stopping for a minute for people to kind of get over those tiny fears,
Yeah. And I also think hair is such an emotional thing, for most people. And let's be honest, it was a very emotional time for all of us. And so I think it also sparked something in people of emotion to try something different, to express that emotion more through their hair. But also at the same time, you had a lot of people who were trapped inside, and they weren't in their day-to-day environment of a job telling them they couldn't have it or a school reprimanding them for expressing themselves. And so I think that offered a lot of people a time to shine and really go within and say, like, who am I in the midst of all of this? And how do I want to present that to people through, unfortunately at the time, most of the time it was through a lens, whether it was your phone or, social media, Zooming, whatever that may have been. And so I think that also, those two things had a really big factor in it, and which is, it was a great feeling. It was also a very weird feeling because it was so dark at the same time that there was almost a bit of guilt for having seen success in your business when you didn't really feel like you deserved to have that or to feel good about that sort of thing when so much darkness was happening for people around you, loved ones, all of that. And so, yeah, it was just a crazy time, to be honest.
What do you guys think about TikTok in general? Do you look on TikTok for hair trends? Obviously, Paramore songs are going crazy viral on TikTok all the time. How much do you guys use it?
I don't even have it on my phone. We are We're just, two sweet dinosaurs kind of traversing our way through trends and fashion. We don't really, Brian and I both, we don't really use a lot of social media. And this is one of those times where you realize the importance of hiring people who, also hiring young folks as well, right? Like people who are really in it and just understand, but also I think it's like never be the smartest person in the room. And this is one of those areas where like I used to be glued to social media 1000% of the time, and it really affected my mental health. Brian had a similar experience where he was like, I just can't, like, that's not where my passion even is for the business, So what I do is, we both have Pinterest for sure. And that's one way we can send stuff, or he can show me things that he's been kind of looking at and dreaming up. But also I will get on like a browser version of Instagram every now and then, and I will check a few, like probably two things. One is I'll check like local politics, because there's a couple of really amazing activist groups and news sharing groups that I like to stay up on when we're traveling away from home. And then number two, I will look at tons of like Japanese hair salons. There's a few that like I constantly am screenshotting and sending to Brian whenever I get on and I see them. And that's really exciting, because that's one reason that I've been so excited about, like the fact that we have a couple of products now that are for natural tones, because it seems like in Japan, what we've been seeing is there's this really amazing way of giving someone, for the most part, a natural look, but kind of spiking it with like a neon somewhere, whether it's kind of hidden, whether it's tipped out, whether it's like this weird glow that it has where it looks like a natural, but you can tell that they've used something else. Like it's really fascinating to me how far ahead Japanese and Korean beauty, have always been. Even from the beginning of Brian and I's friendship and career together, it's always been about, well, this is what they're doing in Tokyo on Harajuku Street. Like, this is what they're doing in Osaka, and this is what's happening in South Korea. Like, I think, I don't know, that's always just been a through line for us, which is why when we opened our salon, we called our salon Fruits Hair Lab, because, the origin of our friendship was like Fruits magazine from Japan, and just being inspired by like what's happening in other places.
Yeah, I wanted to hear about the concept of your salon. When did you start it? And tell us about how the idea to start a salon came about.
Oh my gosh, it feels like we've talked about it off and on for so long. Brian and I both have seesawed throughout the years, to where he would be really kind of ambitious about the idea of education and kind of services. And then he would get really shy right about the time that I got really excited about it. So it took us a little while to kind of realize that it's something that we could do if we just kind of put our minds to it enough at the same time. But we didn't have the building until the end of 2020. I realized that there were some places around town, and this was kind of right before Nashville had like another big boom of growth, like especially with real estate. So I can't imagine, we probably wouldn't have even been able to afford it if we tried to do it today. But we got really lucky. We found a great space that belonged to someone that I actually knew, a local clothing designer. And she's like a young, badass woman, probably about my age, I think. And she happened to have this place because she was going to open a spot. And we got lucky. We ended up with it. And it used to, before that, it was like a punk rock label. But we decided pretty early on that like we don't want it to look anything like anything that Nashville already has. I think Brian and I are both really, really passionate about, not only the freedom to express and kind of like have agency over how you present yourself to the world, and how that can be not only such an emotional journey, but it's also now, especially now more than ever, it's very much a political fight, So I think that we find ourselves in the middle of Nashville opening a salon at the same time as not only Good Die Young is opening at Ulta, but there's also a ban on drag shows in Tennessee. There's, multiple different kind of obstacles in the way of gender affirming healthcare in Nashville. There's so much happening in our state that would lead you to believe that maybe this isn't a state that's friendly towards the idea of, freedom of expression. So, it's really important on that side of things for us to be there and be a safe space. And then I think, Brian, you can speak to this more, but Brian's really passionate about education and what that does for people too. So I won't blab anymore. I'll let you take over of that part.
Yeah, no, I think like Hayley was saying, it's really important, the education aspect and hiring people and being able to learn and grow off of each other as stylists and professionals, but also creating really cool, fun hair and looks and a safe space for everybody, because at the end of the day, Fruits really isn't just about hopefully great, really fun hair or beautiful hair, crazy hair. It's also about feeling like everybody is welcome, and it's a safe space. It's a safe space for anyone who doesn't identify as norm. And I think that that's really important because as a gay man who has spent 20 years growing up in the South but came from Michigan in the North, it was very jarring how religion was used as a weapon of warfare instead of a weapon of love. And so I still find it very astonishing as an older man. And so it's always been something that has hair and just feeling seen and heard as a human being, despite how I may identify or whom I may love, is also a big part of just Fruit's aesthetic of just being welcoming to everybody who wants to have great hair, beautiful hair, colorful hair, fun hair, but also while engaging with each other. And hopefully, again, educating is a big part of it. And hopefully we're educating each other, not just on the hair, but just how to be really good human beings to each other.
Yeah, true.
Do you see yourselves opening new salons in other areas?
It's a very much a dream of mine, especially with Ulta, and hopefully we can do really well. I have a dream of Good Die Young expanding into more pro-line, more pro-permanent things that we can use to educate professionals, in the career path that I've chose, but also maybe being a part of that of educating stylists within Ulta and their salons. And maybe there's a place for Good Die Young to start trickling in there and start educating people and on latest trends and looks, and maybe bringing in a more youthful, fun way of looking at hair, like we have with Fruits. And, and maybe Fruits could also be a part of that within. I'm not sure, but that's me dreaming very large and very big and very much putting the cart in front of the horse here. But also, I've talked to Hayley, and I've said now that we have Fruits in Nashville, and I've kind of seen you know what, I'm not as hesitant about it as I used to be. I would love to have one in, every major city, New York, LA, Chicago, Atlanta, and just have it be that more kind of, I feel like, not boutique-y, but Fruits is very much a vibe and an identity to its area. And I think it would be really cool to be able to do that in other areas.
So I wanted to wrap by getting some details on your future plans. Obviously, you have a whole range of hair colors now. What trends are on your radar? What are your top sellers now? Are we going to see new colors in the pipeline? What are you guys seeing?
Always new colors. Always new colors.
Always.
That's big, especially like it shades for we always try to kind of think about what's going to maybe be the it color, whether it's Pantone's it color or fashion's it color for spring, summer, winter, fall, whatever that may be. Over accessorizing with hair, we've been doing it with Hayley on tour. We actually made some and sold some. We have this, they're basically my tips, trends, looks, things that we do on gooddieyoung.com. And we made some hair accessories, some like hair pearls, that sort of thing. They actually just like sold out of those. And so that's really cool. So I would like to dabble more in that, hair accessories, hair jewelry.
I want to do like a collab, there's so many cool independent jewelry companies that would be so fun to work with. We used some Justine Cliquet jewels for my hair on the last tour. Catbird is a great company that does really cool collabs, and I've worn them for years and years. So, that I think that's going to be a really fun, that'll be a really fun accessory for us to kind of dream up. But you're working on other stuff too, like even stuff that I found out about when I went into the office last time. I was like, oh shit, I didn't realize these things were still happening. Like there's some reformulations and
I would love to be able to do more styling products, especially because I do so much session work with Hayley on set for tour, stuff like that. I also would love to do more collaborations, like Hayley was saying, with whether it be influencers or other brands that align with our ethos in creating, whether it's a specific shade with an influencer or an artist. And it doesn't have to be just solely like music. It can be, anything that aligns with the ethos of Good Die Young. So my brain is constantly always running at 9,000. And so I have so many ideas, and even some of that is innovation of thinking of ways to do things that I would like to do that haven't been done before with products. So
yeah, you've been told no a couple times on.
And I love hearing it because it only makes me want to prove them wrong more.
Yes, I love that too. It's fun.
Well, just a final question for today. Do you guys each want to share any hair heroes that you have from maybe the past or a certain person that's an inspiration for hair? Do you have anyone like that?
I probably have a few. I mean,
Debbie Harry.
Always, yeah. She's just the ultimate.
Mine, I always have said, and I will always say this, Nicki Minaj has always been someone as an artist, as a woman, business. I just think her brain is phenomenal. Her talent is amazing, but also just the vividness that she brings to her hair, the styles that she has worn and done. I'm always very inspired by that. Missy Elliott was, I know, a huge inspiration for Hayley and I in many of ways. Hair being one of them. Just again, an ever transformation of oneself. And also that transformation, and Hayley and I tried to do this a lot, is expressing themselves through their body of art and work that they're doing. And I'm always inspired by anyone who does that, especially when it comes to hair or fashion or makeup, is always something that I just am enamored by.
Yeah, I feel like I kind of my tastes change so often, or like maybe with my mood. But I mean, Debbie was always one, because Debbie Harry had such a look that I think we all have come to know her as. But she also experimented a lot with her hair, and especially even as she got older too. That's really great for me to see, even just as a woman in the music industry. It's amazing to see this icon, like she is, kind of go from, she's been everything. She's been like this kind of sex symbol. She's also just like the coolest punk rock, female lead, front man, whatever. and she's worn crazy wigs. Her fashion was always changing up. But I always tell Brian, like, my favorite thing about Debbie Harry is that, like, she never looks more comfortable than in a t-shirt and jeans. And that's very, like, I resonate with that. But, you know, if it's not her, which is kind of one of the only constants for me, it goes from, you know, 90s R&B, like, icons to, you know, Wes Anderson characters and, you know, film and TV and kind of costuming. Like, I kind of run the gamut, you know, and as far as like what it's whatever mood I'm in is like what I find to be the most inspiring. So, yeah. But I will say Debbie from day one with Brian and I, Nikki, you've never not mentioned Nikki in any interview or whatever. Missy Elliott always is mentioned. And obviously too, like with our first pink shade ever it's called X Girl. And that's, you know, inspired by Gwen Stefani and like No Doubt's song Ex-Girlfriend and that vivid pink that she had for that Return of Saturn album cycle. It's just so iconic, you know, no one forgets that.
I'm also really inspired, and I told Hayley this, we just came back from the UK and London, and I watched the Vivienne Westwood documentary.
Yes.
And it got my brain going like at 9,000. And so that is someone that I am extremely inspired by right now as well, too.
Well, Brian and Hayley, thank you for being here.